Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Woody Allen Retrospective podcast. I'm your host, Donald Wonder, and I'm back with that Moni Git we like to call Simon Red.
Git. All right, really. Did you get up with your British foot today? What's up with that?
That's where I was born, son. That's where I come from. Guys, before we get started, I have an announcement to make. And actually, know some of you guys requested this. Here on Planet Tyro, we do a lot of other stuff apart from the Woody Allen, anime, manga, television. A lot of you guys don't give a shit about...
What does that have to do with you coming out of the closet? Oh, wait, is that not the announcement? Am I getting this wrong? Did I jump the shark on that? I thought that you could announce that.
You do understand that I am the editor. So I will find a way to fix that and to your...
Hey, either you leave it in or you give yourself more work. The choice is yours.
Fuck you. So anyway, let's pretend that never happened. I've heard you guys' feedback, and what I've decided to do was, you guys already know we got the hashtag WoodyAllenRetro. From now on, instead of using the hashtag, well, as well as using the hashtag, if you know anyone that likes the Woody Allen content we do, you can tell them we've just got a website called WoodyAllenRetro.com. That's WoodyAllenRetro.com. If you're looking on YouTube, I'll put a link on the screen right now. It's not complicated, guys. We've got a website. We're going to have a better website. It's going to look good, but for now, you can just use the URL for all our recordings if you don't give a shit about any of the other stuff we do on Planet Tyro. And I would think that would make a lot of you guys very happy.
Up until they find something else to complain about, but yeah.
Okay. Well, with that out of the way, guys, thanks for checking out our podcast as usual. If you were here last time, we actually spoke about Broadway Danny Rose. You can click on the YouTube card to go back on that review. You can click on the link and it'll go back to that discussion. And of course, we're doing the podcast. We've been doing it all year. We're going to continue to do it with all the 50 plus Woody Allen titles. Use the Woody Allen hashtag, as I just mentioned before, WoodyAllenRetro.com, and on Twitter, Android, iOS, podcast, get it anyhow you want. As always, spoiler discussion, guys. Spoiler. Not to be patronizing, but you shouldn't be listening to these discussions unless you watch the movie. So we're moving on ahead to the very next one, which is a massive one, a fan favorite in the franchise. But we'll see if we agree if it's that good or if it's just garbage. Simon, what are we talking about today?
Wow, that's one hell of an introduction. Well, we're going to talk about the highly anticipated Purple Rose of Cairo, and as you mentioned, this one is critically acclaimed and a fan favorite. It was made in 1985, but it's set in 1935, so a bit nostalgia for you right there. And once again, it stars Mia Farrow, filling in for Diane Keaton still, in my mind at least. You know, I'm not gonna let that shit go anytime soon. But basically, this is her moment to shine, because this is the second film Woody Allen wrote and directed that does not star him, if I have correctly in my mind at the moment. And Mia Farrow is the lead, with Jeff Daniels filling in for the romantic love interest. But there's a slight twist. See, the setup for this movie is actually probably the most traditional we have seen from Woody Allen. During the Great Depression, Mia Farrow plays Cecilia, who's in a terrible spot. She has a crappy job. Her husband's out of work. Nobody has money. She's mistreated. She tries to leave home several times, but as a woman in the 30s, where can she really go? She's very shy and scared, and her husband really abuses that fact just to cheat on her, hit her, and use her as a rag doll, basically, and a doormat. And then enters Jeff Daniels. But the twist is, and this is where the movie gets creative, Cecilia's favorite hobby is the movies, going to the movies, and she falls in love with every single picture. It's her way of escaping reality. And the movie she's currently in love with is The Purple Rose of Cairo, as the title of the film. She watches it several times, one after the other, and about the fifth viewing of a single day, one of the characters from the screen, called Tom Baxter, played by Jeff Daniels, looks right at her from the screen and says, "What are you doing? You really must love this picture," and just walks off the screen. And that's where the movie really becomes interesting.
It does. That's basically the concept of the movie. I don't know what to say, man. I really did enjoy this movie like everybody else. I did not enjoy watching it a second time or third time because of the ending, which we'll get to later.
Oh, big jump there, but I can imagine it's going to be controversial.
We'll get to it, but I just want to say this is actually one of the movies I've only seen once or twice, just because the ending makes it a bit of a hard pill to swallow. But I'm sure you'll have something to say on that, Simon. But first of all, cast, Mia Farrow, again, like you said, Simon, she had her time to shine in this movie. And although she's playing a very mousy and kind of, as you said, abused character, I actually liked it. And if you
kind of Diane Keaton-esque, isn't she?
You really come on. You need to stop doing it. That's not fair. That is not fair, Simon. For the last time, and this he Woody Allen. I think it's fair to say he was kind of over Diane Keaton. He knew it was time to move on, and it'd been 4 or 5 years at this point. So I know he keeps saying that, but the truth was, I like Mia Farrow in this movie, and I think she does a better job than Diane Keaton would have. And I'll tell you why. Here's the
Blasphemy.
reason. No, here's the reason. This is the problem. When you see an actress, I know you disagree with this, but I even think I could bring up a good example of this. When an actress is playing too many roles with the same director, I guess you could even, you know what? Actually, I got an argument. I could even say like Leonardo DiCaprio when you're one of your favorite directors.
Let's try something that proves your point.
I know.
Instead of contradicting yourself.
No, that's what I said. No.
Let's try.
No. I
Johnny
knew
Depp
I was
and
going to
Tim
contradict
Burton.
myself, but here's the thing.
Okay, Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. There's your example. Like, overexposed, too much of the same, predictable, boring. That's what you want to say.
Yes, but what I was going to say is you don't get that dynamic a lot with men and women. Like a male director having like a female muse. It doesn't happen that often.
Not without a lawsuit, usually, yeah.
So that's why I was going to allow myself to contradict myself on purpose. Thank you very much for proving my point. Anyway, yes, Johnny Depp is a good example why this shit can go bad, go wrong. But, that's taken away from Woody Allen's directing skills. Either way, you need to stop doing that, Simon, because Mia Farrow plays the role good. And in contrast to her last movie with Woody Allen, Broadway Danny Rose, it shows her range from being a very stylistic and tough-nosed kind of bitchy character to this kind of mousy and hard done by character, which she plays the roles really well. And I actually like the fact she commits her personality to the very end. And I'll get to the end later. Jeff Daniels, you know what? Fun fact, I believe Michael Keaton was meant to play the role. And actually,
for real? I
yes,
didn't even know that.
And he shot a lot of the scenes for the movie as well, where they actually have some footage of this as well. But Woody Allen decided that Michael Keaton portrayed too much of the 80s and not more of the 30s. So ironically, Woody Allen said that he would, he was always looking for another role for Michael Keaton. Still hasn't happened to this day, which is ironic. But Jeff Daniels took the role, and I have to say, this is Jeff Daniels. He has worked before this, but he claims this is his first big major role.
His third movie overall.
Obviously his first big one, as I said, but he did say this movie had such a big effect on him. I believe he has a production studio in his hometown that is named is it the Danny Rose or the Broadway Rose?
It's Purple Rose.
The
Purple Rose.
So, he has a lot of respect for the movie. Even Mia Farrow's abusive husband, he's a good actor. He plays that role really well.
Danny Aiello,
yeah.
I think most people will remember him from the Madonna music video for Papa Don't Preach. Back in the day when they made music videos to appeal, to conquer the medium of television, unlike today where they make videos where people smoke weed with neon lights and lyrics on the screen to conquer the medium of bullshit.
Well, let's be honest. No one's actually going to remember that music video.
I actually associated the guy with the video. I actually thought he was Mia Farrow's dad in the first scene up until I realized, that's her husband. I just see him as a dad all the time because of that music video. An angry dad with alcohol issues. I
was just going to criticize you for having what we would now call an obscure music video because Madonna is now out of the pop idol genre, whatever.
It's not like I like the song that much. I just remember the music video.
I'm calling you a goddamn nerd anyway. So the rest of the cast, and I have to say, man, you just have to give it to the actors that are the movie in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That cast as well, they are so fantastic. And you know what? Actually, I don't do this a lot, but there was one scene in particular, especially when Jeff Daniels leaves the movie, as you mentioned, and those actors are stuck in the movie and they're complaining with the audience that are watching the movie. There's one woman that she blasts a member of the audience and says something so funny. I think you're going to remember this when I play the clip right now.
Hey, what the hell kind of movie is this?
People said it was a romance set all over the world.
Look, don't tell us your sad stories. You think we like this?
Look at this. They sit around and talk, and no action, nothing happens.
I want my money back. This is outrageous.
Why don't you stop yapping? We've got problems of our own.
You can't talk to my wife like that. Who do you think you are?
I'm a genuine countess with a lot of dough, and if that's your wife, she's a tub of guts.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Very funny.
The scene, they have such great chemistry. One of those guys is actually, I know you don't watch Gilmore Girls, Simon, but one of the guys.
I know, he was the dad in Gilmore Girls. And he was also the, spoiler alert, kind of asshole love interest for the mom in The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And who's that actress is actually in the movie as one of the prostitutes. But without getting into too much of the nuances, I really want to focus on where the movie gets good, and you alluded to this with the cast in the film, within the film, that for me, where the movie shines is that this could go down in a very generic territory with this fantasy love story, right? Everybody listening thinks, okay, Jeff Daniels comes off the screen, suddenly he's this perfect guy from the movies that changes her life, and they just go on a wild adventure. And the movie kind of does that, but to me, the genius of the film is how deep it goes into the realism. Like, the moment he leaves the screen, the movie doesn't just stop. We actually see the other characters try to figure out what the hell is going on, that one of them just got missing, and they can't continue the story. And then they even go further and start exploring what's going on in other theaters with the same movie, but the theater manager thinks, what the head of the studio thinks about people outrage that one of her characters from the movie came to life and just left the theater. And they even bring in the actor who plays the character. So Jeff Daniels is actually playing two roles. Yeah. He's not only playing Tom Baxter, he's playing Gil Shepard, who's the actor in real life, who played this character in the movie. So the movie goes very deep, and really you explore every angle. And to me, that is the best aspect of the whole movie. To me, the love story and the adventure really take a back seat to exploring this fantasy element and seeing all these different characters interact with each other in ways you never really seen it happen before. Whenever you have this setup for a film like this, where something comes alive that's not supposed to, people just usually accept it, like, oh, okay, let's move on. It reminded me a lot of that Tom Hanks movie Big. Yeah. But he becomes an adult. It's another 80s film, and people just roll with it. His friend just accepts it. Everybody's in the dark, and we never really get to see anybody's reaction to it up until it's relevant towards the end of the story. Here, the entire plot revolves around everybody in town in Jersey talking about what the hell is going on, and all the people from the studio and the actor and the actor's manager and the studio head and lawyers and everybody coming and saying, we need to fix this right now. I mean, don't forget, this is the 30s, so a completely different mentality. And of course, Woody Allen gets to show his political humor, where people going crazy about, oh, is he a red? Is he a communist? What is he, an anarchist? What's going on?
Yeah, and I have to one-up you, because I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the realism of this movie. And for a fantasy movie to take the situation in a realistic way, and I just want to dig a little bit deeper into that. When Jeff Daniels, the actor, got involved in the movie, it made sense to me, because I thought to myself, this is what would actually happen if this fantasy thing would happen in real life. If there was another version of yourself that was running around, you would be worried that they would ruin your image. And I like the way the media still was like, what's he? The joke was like, is he a rapist? Is he raping women? That came up so many times. He must be raping women, But he was worried that this guy is going to affect his career. So he had to fly out. And of course, the actors in the movie were having their own dilemma, because I think one of the other nuances in the fourth dimension is those actors in the movie were not only pretending that they were in their own world, they were pretending they were actors in a play. Because they were talking about, watching the audience, like, we can see you. They would comment on the audience, especially when Jeff Daniels first walked out. He said, I saw you before. I watched you. It's like, from their perspective, they're in a play and they can see the audience as well. So Woody Allen really, this is called world building, guys. And to cut it short, this is very, very layered world building executed in a very simple movie. And I will tell you, man, for the time it was made, this blew people away in a myriad of ways, and it ages fantastically well. The cinematography for the movie is great. I remember if you check out the Woody Allen pages where they go into it, Woody Allen was talking about he was looking for a really rundown place that could resemble the 30s, a year of the time of the Depression when the movie set, to kind of get the feel. That's kind. Yeah. And the place was even more run down he was looking for. He actually had to put into some money into the area to bring up to code. I'm sorry, I forgot what part of America this was. But he actually had to put money into the set design and the area to actually make it look like the 30s. Because it actually looked too run down. So, but they had a celebration. I think it was recently. I think it was the 40th, the Annie Hall, close to the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, 85, it would have been the 30th, like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so the town actually celebrates this movie as well. And again, it's a movie that celebrates Hollywood as well. The love story, as you mentioned before, again, it's done, he's done it before, but the uniqueness is it's a love triangle between two people that are technically the same kind of person, just one's fantasy, one's real. And the dilemma for Mia Farrow's character is she has to that's the thing. And this is the point I want to kind of have a bigger discussion with you is, I think you're not going to be surprised if I told you, Simon, that the studio did not like the ending to the movie.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on it, basically, what happens with the love story angle is that when Jill, I keep saying Jill, fucking Gil. I don't even like that name. So when Gil, the actor, comes in, he tries to convince his counterpart to go back to the film and stop ruining his life and his career, basically, because he's a young, up-and-coming actor, and this is just all around bad for him. But he seems to get romantically involved with Mia Farrow's character, Cecilia, and that's where the love triangle forms. So kind of the adventurous breakaway nature of the film stops, and it's more about Cecilia dealing with all this confusion in her life, as well as exploring really the meta elements of, hey, a fictional character who only knows what was written inside his character in the film. How does he function in the real world? His money is paper money, it's not valid, it's fake bills. He does never eaten before. When he has sex with somebody, it's in the 30s, so we go to a fadeaway. You never see it happen. So when he runs into these random escorts, he's completely clueless, and he doesn't even know what a brothel is, because in the movie he never went to a brothel. He only knows the film world. So it's very clever. But I know where you're going, that the ending's not particularly happy. It's more of a sad ending. But to me, the romantic element fades away just enough where it recenters on Cecilia's character really having an arc. And this is her journey. When this was my first time watching it, so at the end where she has to choose between the two, either go into the film world, because another clever element in the film when she actually joins the cast of the film for a second, so Tom can show her around, because in the real world his money isn't valid, they can't really go out on an adventure, and then they come back down, and then Gil shows up, and it's time to choose. Are you gonna live in a fantasy, or you come back to the real world? And you think the movie's message at that point is like, she chooses the real world, Tom goes back into the film. It's kind of a sad goodbye, but after all, it was a fantasy, and she chooses reality. So she leaves her husband, but guess what? Big face plant. Gil left on a plane, and her ass is out there after she left her husband on the closed streets with all her clothes in a bag. And that's the part you hate, right?
I don't hate it. It's just really, it's so unexpected, because it's not it's the opposite of the happy ending. She gets the worst possible outcome. She's given up. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have the abusive husband anymore. She doesn't have the fantasy life anymore. And she doesn't have the fantasy Hollywood husband. She's got nothing. All she's got is her movies again. And it doesn't make me feel good, but I appreciate the brutalness of the movie. And Woody Allen said that was the ending that made the film special. There was no other ending. And I even knew before researching this, the studio were like, please give us the happy ending. Please let her either go just down to Hollywood or go in the movie, please. And Woody Allen's like, that's not the movie. That's not what this movie is about. This movie, and I don't think anyone with half a brain could tell, this is about reality versus fantasy.
Yeah.
And I like the fact, and to be honest with you, what I like about Cecilia, and I respect the decision she made, because she spent enough time with the fictional Jeff Daniels to let him know that she couldn't live with him in real life. He didn't know what money was. He didn't understand the concept of anything. Jobs, God, he's a complete fictional character. So I was like, when I watched it the third time now, I thought, now I can see why she chose the other guy. But when she went into the movie and then she had the fantasy experience, that's when I thought to myself, okay, you really kind of fucked up there, because you actually, this was your dream. You went to the movies, you could be in the movie. But she came out and she, she says to him, I gotta have reality. And I respected that. And it showed that she was an adult and it was a risk and she got duped. And it's a hard lesson. But again, just like Woody Allen said, and I agree with, it's what makes the movie shine. Because if we go with the other ending, the lighter ending, where she ends up with Jeff Daniels, the Hollywood, or goes in the movie, it becomes meh. It becomes just an interesting 4-4 gimmick movie. But with this ending, it really is the anti-escapism movie that this generation needs. And I really appreciate that.
That's very interesting, man. I think we're gonna disagree a bit, because
okay.
I interpret it completely differently. And this is maybe me reading into it. First of all, Woody Allen had me nervous throughout this entire movie. Like, I was looking out for dead rabbits in every single scene.
I don't blame you.
He's doing this movie in a movie, fourth wall fantasy stuff again, like in Star Wars Memories. And I was like, don't you dare do it, motherfucker. Don't tell me all this was like non-existent. She had like a seizure. She's in a coma in a hospital or something like that. Don't come out 30 years later and say, oh, it was all a dream by the husband because the husband's insane and he killed everybody in town, or crazy stuff like that. I was just looking out for, is there a dead rabbit in this scene? Are they ordering rabbit in the restaurant? Come on, let me know. Is there a rabbit in the tomb in Egypt in the movie or something? So that was one thing. But other than that, when the movie wraps up, what's very interesting that in the beginning of the film, she has a low point. So she ends up in the theater and keeps watching the movie. And then the movie comes back around and it ends with her in the same theater, possibly the same seat, watching the film again with the ending of the film. And that's when the actual film ends. So it kind of goes in full circle, which to me is a huge improvement on Stardust Memory.
Sure.
And that's what kind of opened up the ending, that, hey, this could all have been a dream she had in the theater. And if you look at it like that, I don't want to fictionalize it too much, but if you look at it like that, it comes down to that the movie really helped her find the strength to leave her husband and be brave enough to try to make it on her own. That's sort of what, to me, the movie's message is about empowering people through inspiration. I mean, both you and I, we love the movies because it's a great form of escapism and kind of puts you in a good mood, and it exposes you to new, fresh ideas and inspires you.
Sure.
And Woody Allen at this stage in his life kept talking about, like, he's trying to find, the meaning. Like, why are we here? If we don't have infinite time on this planet, what should we do to make it worth it? And this has been explored in Midnight Says Comedy, Stardust Memories, bunch of different films that he did or he talked about as his influences. And I think once again he wanted to touch on that, but this time with a more direct message of, I think art allows people to feel better about life, to really make life better for people, perhaps help them get through things, find inner courage. It's a tool to make life worth it. And he as an artist felt empowered by that. I think he wanted to convey that message by showing this really beat down character where all the cards are stacked up against her, the time period, her personal situation, even her own gender. And through this one hobby that was the only good thing in her life, she really went through this character arc. And in the end, it doesn't really matter that she didn't get to be with either Tom or Gil, because what her real problem in life was, she got over that. She didn't need a man at the ending. She didn't need the Hollywood ending of getting together with a guy to rescue her to be in a better place. She found the inner courage because she went through an experience that felt that there's something about her that can be loved. Because she didn't think, oh, anybody could love me. I can find anybody who would treat me better. but now she knows that that's not true. And to me, that's the real ending of the film. But yeah, I mean, what else can I say? And also, one of the best lines in the movie is that it's just as hard for fictional characters not to be real than to real people not to be fictional. Like, fictional characters want to be real people want to be fictional. So that's why she couldn't even go with Tom and live in the movie, because it wouldn't have been real. It would have been a lie.
Hey, Simon, I agree with everything you said. I actually find your explanation very mature. And, I everything you said, I saw it that way before the movie became a fantasy. That was the clear message in the beginning. And at the end, I'm not going to say it wasn't, by the end, you're right. It's just, well, let me just finish. You're right that it does. That was the message. That made her life better. It inspired her. It always made her life better. Even though she didn't leave her husband, movies made her life bearable. And at the end, she came out a stronger person for it. I think that's the silver lining and the mature way to see the movie. And ultimately, I think that is ultimately Woody's message. If he had a bit more of an epilogue and we saw a bit of her life after that, that point would have drawn home a little bit more. But for me, that point is there if you think about it more. But just walking away from the movie, it feels more just like a bit of a cautionary fantasy tale. But like I said, I respect the fact she made a conscious decision and she paid a consequence for that. And the movie does end with her having a tear and a smile on her face, because like you said, that I can see that in her face. She was happy she had the experience ultimately. But as I said in the beginning, it still makes it a hard film to watch, because it's, yikes, you really got done. You got duped and you missed a great opportunity. I know what you're saying. You still got your self-respect. You're still a strong woman. You could have your happy end. It's not the end of your life. But still, that doesn't mean it's not a hard movie for me to watch. It's like, I love the movie. And by the way, it's in my top 5 Woody Allen movies. And it's a lot. It's actually in like everyone's top 10 list. I think if we're talking about fourth wall breaking, self-aware movies, if we think about movies like, I guess Last Action Hero comes to mind, even movies like Stranger Than Fiction, Ruby Sparks, movies where we take a surreal aspect or a fantasy aspect of characters and bring them into reality, whether it's cartoons like Roger Rabbit or Ruby Sparks, when an author brings the characters to life and stuff like that. It's really interesting to see, again, Woody Allen being an innovator, being one of the... There's films that were before this that actually brought characters in from movies to life. He's not the first to do it, but with this depth and the layers we mentioned with the people in the movies in the cinema, the lessons of herself, and the love triangle between two characters, the same people, I think this is a fucking fantastic movie. I really do. And Woody Allen just absolutely kills it. And what I want to say is, this is one of the things that kind of hurts Woody Allen as a filmmaker, and as Woody Allen doing movies every single year. In the grand scheme of Woody Allen's filmography, people, the fans of its movie, but the general audience don't know about it.
Sure.
I've spoken to many Woody Allen fans that don't really know about the movie.
It gets lost in the sea of movies.
Exactly. That's my point. He makes so many movies, even really good ones like this one, that you would think, oh, this is like, if another director that wasn't Woody Allen made this one movie, it could have made someone's career. This is like a career-making movie. It could be a one-hit wonder movie, but everyone would know that director's name for this movie alone. But Woody Allen is of such a high caliber, and he does so many movies in a year, it's kind of at his detriment that and this ain't the only movie that does this, that some of his really great movies are swept away when he does another movie and another movie and another movie, and it just becomes a movie in a sea of movies, where some people would argue that this should be up there with Manhattan or Annie Hall. And maybe it's not quite that caliber, but this is a clear superior movie to most of his movies. Easy top 10, and for me personally, a top 5. So,
Yeah, I was actually about to bring that up, that last week with Broadway's Danny... What was it called?
Broadway Danny Rose.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to say Rose, because I'm like, Rose again? Really?
Yeah, 2 Rose movies.
It's in a row. But yeah, Broadway Danny Rose. That was my problem. It's not like I didn't enjoy the film, or I didn't think that it was easily watchable. But I thought Woody Allen can do much better than this. And the story was there. He could have knocked it out of the park. But I need to accept that he is a volume filmmaker. He likes to do one, at least he tries to do one every single year. He even feeds that line into Jeff Daniels' character, Gil, in the film where he says, I try to do a picture every year, to keep it fresh.
Good catch. You're right. He does say that. Good catch.
Yeah, exactly. So I need to accept that sometimes movies some film of his are going to be like the weaker tracks on an album, that it's just there to switch things up, change the mood a bit, experiment with things, do something different. It may not be as perfectly crafted as some of his other films, but it's there to, keep things interesting. So you're not bored of seeing the same rom-com, same Manhattan story all the time, which at this point in this retrospective, we can clearly see him revisiting similar ideas. I mean, hell,
Sure.
the play he wrote that got turned into the movie, Played Against Sam. The main character there is a down on his luck loner who goes to the theater to escape, and he's obsessed with a certain time period, the Bogart era, watches all the movies, and then a fictional version of Bogart becomes his friend in real life, helping him get through relationship troubles. I mean, that's very similar to the trappings of this story. So,
correct. Yeah.
And later on in his filmography, he's going to have plenty of movies that people were blown away by that, again, are very similar to this idea of, I want to get away from this point in time, my life, this time period. I want to escape to some fictional world. Then the fantasy element comes in, enter this stranger from a different time who becomes the love interest, and that's where the story takes, goes into the next gear.
And this is part of the reason why when people said Midnight in Paris is a marvelous, I'm like, no, he's done.
That's the movie I was thinking about, and I love that movie, and we're gonna talk about it. But you can clearly see by going back to these films, either from the 70s or from the 80s, that he does like to revisit similar ideas that are part of his main source of inspiration. So for him to switch it up with some quote unquote weaker films, or films that aren't, produced to master level of perfection, but prioritize being fun and just easy and creative and running with an idea instead of obsessing over the smallest details, really pays off for him personally to keep his catalog fresh. But at the same time, for the individual movies, it can be to their detriment, because it's not like you have 10 movies for a director you can instantly recommend to somebody out of 12. You say, okay, don't watch those two, watch everything else, and you're going to be blown away. But Woody Allen, we're talking about, what, 40 movies, 50 movies?
Yeah.
Oh, a hell of a lot of films to check out.
Yeah. I was going to piggyback off what you said there, but to be honest with you, I don't want to belabor the point. Again, this is a movie, and again, you hit the nail on the head. He perfects previous ideas. Zelig, Take the Money and Run. You just mentioned it. Sleeper. He does them again, perfects them. It's not bad, and they never feel quite the same. But Woody Allen does it in a really good way, and other directors bite off other directors. Woody Allen bites off himself, improves it himself. It's really, really cool. Or Ingmar Bergman, as I can't even say the name properly.
Yeah. Let's get his name right, because we called him Agnes, Ivan. I think we called him Ingrid Bergman by accident, because just out of routine. Ingmar, the motherfucker's called Ingmar.
Well, there you go. Again, that's like the only one that he sometimes tries to parallel. But either way, fantastic movie, without surprise. Rotten Tomato, IMDb scores 9s and 10s, a clear favorite. And obviously, it was nominated for Oscar on the screenplay. Only for the screenplay. I mean, if anyone's going to shine, that's the one to shine.
Hey, man, Jeff Daniels should have gotten a nom. I know he won the Golden Globe. But Jeff Daniels is one of my all-time underrated actors, and he shines in this movie because he has to play two characters that are inherently similar by nature, yet feel completely different, and he nails it. And that has to be one of the toughest acting jobs I've seen anybody pull off. And for a young actor with minimal experience, that was very impressive. They could even take their outfits off, and you could still tell which one was Tom and which one was Gil, which one was a fictional and which was a real life person. And that's very impressive because they act very similar. They have the same mannerisms. So just nailing that without going gimmicky. Like, Johnny Depp would have had 2 different sets of makeup, 2 different sets of accents. Probably went through plastic surgery halfway through shooting just to be more convincing. Pulled the Robert Downey Jr. from like Tropic Thunder, painted himself black, requested, Tim, how can we give this guy a Caribbean origin? I want to be an Indian from the Caribbean who's also Chinese. Can you do that? Jeff Daniels has the same hairstyle, same accent, and he just pulls it off with very subtle, brilliant acting. And for somebody who gets typecast in comedies up until recent years that he did, shows like The Newsroom and
10 years later, he did Dumb and Dumber.
Exactly.
No, that's an exception to the rule. No, what you said is right. Honestly, he's more of a serious actor. He's done really good movies. He's got an interesting filmography, not a very solid one, but an interesting one. But I do think he's a very, very underrated actor, and I'm glad he had the Newsroom in more recent years to help him to put him back on the limelight a little bit more, to show his chops. And this movie being his first big major one really did show his early range before he dived into the comedy and then dived back out. He's real fluid. He's got some real talent, and this is a really good film for him, and he's really remembered fondly for this one as well. But go on, finish what you're going to say, because I got one more point to make.
Oh, I was going to say it's funny that his acting counterpart in the film, the actor he plays, Gil, he complains about being typecast in comedies. So a little bit of foreshadow to his career.
But since you brought that up, I think there's something we have overlooked a little bit, and I have to commend the cinematography with him being in the same place. I think it's not bad. I mean, you can see it with an eye now, but for the time, it's done pretty well. The two actors, same time, green screen, however they did it. I think it's done pretty competently. You can, if you look, you can see it. It's not perfect by 2017 standards, but Woody Allen really did a good job of that. And the same thing goes for they had to shoot the actors in the cinema and the audience separately and shoot the dialogue, and they really put that together really well. So just for the the direction and cinematography for those two things are really good as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent film from a technical perspective, very similar to Zelig, where it does very subtle things, but the tricks they pull it off very well and very seamlessly.
Well, there you go. That wraps us up. Again, this was a longer one because it was worth it. It was a good movie, and I'm glad that I was actually wondering if this was going to be a little bit overhyped for you, Simon, but it seems you found the same level of appreciation that I did, even more so than I did even.
Well, for me, the ending works because in my head, everything that she experienced was through the film, so she never actually got really disappointed. It was sort of the movie. What did Woody Allen say about Stardust Memories? The movie projected in her consciousness or some bullshit like that.
The rabbit projected itself in his consciousness, and everything he was seeing was through the rabbit's.
You know what? This movie actually takes place in the character's head, who's in Stardust Memories, who's a projection of Woody Allen's character through the rabbit. So that's the actual continuity of Woody Allen's filmography. It's all connected. See?
You know what? To be fair, I think by this time he had heard the criticism for Stardust Memories. He made it clear what this film was about. So
exactly.
We don't have to worry about
this
that.
This felt like he's like, no, motherfuckers, this time I'll do it right. Like he made it he made a point out of it.
He's gonna walk out of the film. There's gonna be an audience reaction. I love it. There's a woman that she just fainted. And the same thing when Mia Farrow went in the movie and the love interest touched her and she screamed as well. That was some of the funniest moments as well. It's just funny, but great film. We don't want to overstate the point. Guys, if you've seen this movie, if you agree, if you haven't seen this movie and you're wondering, should I watch this movie? I will lastly say, guys, if you haven't, this is a movie I think has some of the highest accessibility to the non-Woody Allen fans. Actually, you might not even know Woody Allen directed this movie. And actually, you could, but I'm just saying this has very high accessibility. I could recommend this to people that are not fans of Woody Allen. So this is a very good entry-level Woody Allen point movie, I would say, as a final accommodation to the movie.
Yeah, I'll join you right there. For me, it creeped up to number 4. This is like in my top 5 as well. So far, what we have seen from Woody Allen.
I'm sure your list is going to, and we're going to have our own separate top 10s. It's going to be funny when we get to that
Of course, there's plenty of films I've seen already that I like quite a bit that are coming up.
Sure, that's
it. Later down the line. But for now, out of what we've seen, this is definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, no doubt. So anyway, guys, like I said before, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think of the film. Like, dislike, share your thoughts. Again, I want to thank my buddy Simon Red for joining me on this one.
Sure. Watch more Jeff Daniels movies. Try The Martian or Steve Jobs. He's good in those.
You just said Jack Daniels.
I said Jeff.
You sound like watch more Jack Daniels movies.
No, you know what? You should have some fucking Jack Daniels right now. Calm your ass down.
Guys, you tell him in the comments. It sounded like Jack. You play it back some. You said Jack. You said Jeff.
You're the editor, so you're gonna probably fuck me up and just edit some shit together.
You tell yourself that. Guys, don't forget to check out the Woody Allen Pages Watch This Guy, because there's a lot of behind the scenes info about this movie, like Michael Keaton, which I think would have been. I think Woody was right. I can't see Michael Keaton in that role, which is really weird, but I still would like to see it out of curiosity. Check out all the behind the scenes stuff on the WoodyAllenPages.com. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys on the podcasting, because we're always going up on the podcast, so we know you guys listening on your headphones like it a lot more than the YouTube folk. I'm going to be stopping to you guys. Subscribe to the channel, you YouTube guys. I just insulted. And we'll see you on the next video, guys. Take care.
Peace.